Welcome to RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play a little bit of a video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I am Sam Allman.
I'm Bernard.
And I'm Trish.
And today we'll be playing the 7th part of Wild Arms V, the Veith Vanguard, and we'll be covering up through the scenes in Harmonde. But before we get to all of that, how was everyone's week?
It turns out I've been doing too good a job at my job.
Oh no.
And now they are putting me on the slightly harder work, which is still under my old job description.
Damn. So you have to do harder stuff, but you don't get paid for it.
Yes.
That
Because I
sucks.
did such a good job.
I hate it. I saw a thing.
Capitalism.
I saw a thing earlier today that said that a neurodivergent, like 50% is like 100% for normies, and so if we goof off, we accidentally get put on all of the hard things because we're still better than everyone at doing things because we just got that hyper focus of the ADHD part of it, and we're just too good at jobs. And they like quoted science and stuff too, but yeah,
Interesting. Science. I hope it didn't blind anybody.
Yeah. They made a quotation of the word science, and that was it.
According to science, studies show.
Speaking of jobs, I didn't get the one that I had that interview for. Sadly, they decided to go with someone else.
Dang.
Oh.
So my time has been spent. I guess honestly, the biggest thing I want to talk about is there's a recipe that's like one of my I can throw together a dish for the household when I need to, but I have like a set amount of dishes that are like these are my standards. I have the recipe almost completely memorized, and it's like a semi-fancy good meal. One of those is we call it just imitation vodka sauce. I don't even remember where the name came from. But it's some pasta with some sausage and a sauce that is both has a roux and cream, but it also has like tomato paste. It's usually pretty good. I did a couple of substitutions on the recipe that made it recaptured like, oh my god, I made this way I think the very first time and forgot that's how I did it. And this is like the fantastic, incredible version of this dish. Like it's the tastiest it's ever been. Turns out the secret was heavy cream instead of milk in the roux and using fresh garlic instead of jarlic.
Interesting. Well, now I'm going to steal your recipe.
Oh, I will. I'll send it to you. Here's the thing. It's a HelloFresh recipe that I've altered, but it still comes from there originally.
Yeah, my quote-unquote famous salsa that everybody loves was some random Pinterest salsa where I was like, this doesn't seem hot enough, and I just up to the peppers. Because theirs was to be pH neutral, so you could actually can it and stuff, and I was like, I don't give a shit about any of that. Salsa won't last long enough where that'll matter around here, so I fucked with the recipe, and now it's really, really good. So I highly recommend stealing recipes.
Yeah, like my other recipe I've stolen that's like that is there was a recipe on, I think it was Delish is the cooking recipe website it was on originally for a gnocchi mac and cheese. That is absolutely fantastic. Unfortunately, the website has changed and it's a different recipe now.
Oh.
And luckily the one or was it Tastemade originally? It was Tastemade who did it originally. But there was like a website for saving recipes, even if the original website changes it. So it got saved. And all the instructions are gone, just the list of ingredients. And even then I change it to originally in the cheese mix uses Gruyere. And I switched that out for Gouda because Gouda's good. Yeah, that's my cooking talk for today.
Nice. I have had a vacation for the past 10 days, and I ended up only having 1 day of vacation because that's what being a dad is like. But the things that I'm not counting as days of vacation are definitely days of vacation. I spent the day doing stuff with the family, but I didn't have like any relaxation time except for on Wednesday. But on Wednesday, I beat 2 video games, marked them off my list. I beat Danganronpa 2 and Sea of Stars. Sea of Stars is good. I've talked about it before, but the only weird thing about it is the spoilers. It's a JRPG, so when you get to the Dark World half of the game, it's very abbreviated and not just like, oh, there are fewer things to do because you already have the airship or whatever. It's like each of the places you go to is kind of just a dungeon with a cutscene on either side. So the second half of it
Oh,
does feel a little slapdash, but I didn't hate any part of it. I didn't get the true ending because you have to do a bunch of side quests that I didn't feel like doing, but the regular ending was still pretty good and I still liked it. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then Danganronpa 2, I was not planning to beat Danganronpa 2. However, I started chapter 5 at bedtime and then stayed up until 3 until I beat Danganronpa 2 because that's kind of how
it's a
the
roller
last chapter
coaster.
goes.
Yeah.
Like, especially after chapter 4, that technically chapter 4 took me over 2 years to complete because there's just so much like build up because you have to understand how the building is shaped and all of that
Stupid building.
yeah, all of that stuff. So it's like such a drag. And then the part that I was expecting to be, because like Danganronpa 2, the vibe of it is we're going to talk about stuff that people who played Danganronpa 1 really want to know answers to, but before we get to answers, there's a killing game and we have to do a class trial. So I was expecting that part because out walks so and so being like, "Hey everybody, I'm going to tell you a secret." And that secret is I have a bomb. And you're like, "Wait, what the fuck?" And then it just off to the races the whole
Yep.
rest of the game. And yeah,
And then
I was
proceeds the most insane class trial of all time.
absolutely. I was prepared for like, oh, I'm going to do the stuff, and then when I see the person dead in like an hour of gameplay, that's when I'll stop for the night. But it was like 4 minutes of gameplay. And yeah, those last 2 chapters are fantastic, and I highly recommend. And then I started Danganronpa 3 this week as well,
Woo!
and man, that is like Persona 5 level of good UI in that fucking game.
Mm-hmm.
It
It's
is
And that opening is
that
also
opening
Persona level opening.
yeah.
with like a James Bond twist to it.
Yeah, it's very whatever the name of the person who did all the film
Mhm.
openings that look like that.
Yeah.
Y'all know.
Also, that thing you said about the Sea of Stars issue in the back half,
Mhm.
I would like to formally recognize that we say that problem of, oh, we've reached the back half of the game and all that it's just a dungeon with a cutscene before and after it, and
Mhm.
there's nothing else. I would like to formally recognize that as the Wind Waker problem,
Yeah.
and that's my only statement.
Yeah. I for me, if I think of the Wind Waker problem, I would think of it as the story grinds to a halt until you are forced to do a bunch of stupid side quests.
I would
That,
also that's the other Wind Waker problem.
yeah, like Final Fantasy VII feels like it has the Wind Waker problem, but on replay it wasn't nearly as bad as it was when I played it the first time. Final Fantasy VII's good. If you'd like to hear more about why it's good, go listen to the episodes in which I say it's good a lot. But speaking of games that are good, not Wild Arms 5, which is good. But so I want to replay Wild Arms 2 because we're playing Wild Arms 5 and I'm missing my first time, which was Wild Arms 2. But that font really fucking sucks. So another thing I taught myself over my vacation is how to do texture pack replacements for PS1 games, and I'm replacing the font with a modified version of the Earthbound font. I'm making like the Earthbound font monospaced because Wild Arms isn't quite monospaced, it's really stupid, and so the kerning is all over the place, but I'm trying my best to make it look good so that it'll be readable. So when I play through it, I don't have to look at that stupid Wild Arms 1 and 2 font. So once I'm done with the mod, I will be sharing it in the Discord. So if you also want to play Wild Arms 2 and be able to read it, come hang out in the Discord, and that's where I'll drop the files for that.
That font is really bad.
So bad.
You said it's the Wild Arms 1 and 2 font. Will this so you said you were working on it for Wild Arms 2. Will this also be able to transfer to Wild Arms 1 at all?
I haven't loaded up Wild Arms 1 to see if their font texture is laid out the same. If it's not, I know that the font itself is the same, and so copying and pasting each character, like I'm going to make one for Wild Arms 1 as well. But I don't know if it'll be just a name the files the right thing, or if I have to go in and manually shape some things. We'll see when it gets there. But
why is this video I found called Wild Arms 2 Gameplay Part 1 showing someone in an abstract space with a bunch of floating blocks and shit?
That would
Is that
be
how Wild Arms 2 starts?
for the girls. I forget her name off the top of my head. Don't sue me. I think it's Lilka. But that's how hers starts. She's a mage and she's doing her mage training.
I see.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Wild Arms 2 rules. You know what else rules? Wild Arms 5. So let's listen to some music from Wild Arms 5, and then we'll talk about the plot for this week.
So I played a little farther beyond where we stopped because I was bored, and it turns out right after where we stopped, shit gets insane and amazing and so cool. So that's sort of overwritten my memories of what we actually played this week. But I will try to go back to before I knew what I know now.
Yeah. I do know that on the Let's Play, there's obviously a mega dungeon coming up, and that takes like five entries on the Let's Play to get through of it. So we are definitely entering the JRPG half of the JRPG. Yeah, so when we last left our heroes, they were told by Duo that the town of 12-bit is where we can find more info on Johnny Appleseed. And so now we're armed with somebody else's hunter's license, which is close enough, so we can ride the trains everywhere. We ride over to 12-bit, and when we get there, we see Lucille, and Chuck is like, hide, I don't want to see her after I failed to save her. But Lucille comes over to the group anyways. She says that she's a house slave, and Lady Diana is nice to her, so slavery isn't so bad. She asks Dean if he was serious about destroying the wall between Varuni and Human because she saw him say it on TV. And he's like, yeah. Lucille says that Lady Diana was also saying that humans should become independent of the Varuni, and she wondered what Johnny Appleseed would think of all of that. Dean is like, if Lady Diana knows Johnny Appleseed, we need to go talk to her. And Lucille is like, yeah, but the mansion, humans aren't allowed in. She's super important, so nobody can get in. And Chuck is like, yeah, let's just not get Lucille in any trouble. And then for some reason, Rebecca writes about this in her journal and blames it on Afro.
Right?
I don't even know what that's about.
There were multiple bits in this section where we get Rebecca does her diary, and I'm like, this feels like it came out of nowhere. What?
Mm-hmm. So Lucille says that they could probably meet Lady Diana if they posed as well-wishers, since Lady Diana has been ill lately and a lot of people have been traveling into town to see her. So the fact that they're unknown in town could be a cover as long as they act proper and bring a gift so they can bluff being a Varuni. Lucille says that the best gift to bring them would be a Lucille blue flower from the southern desert.
Lucille blue.
I was close. Which is in the southern desert. So we head off to the southern desert to pick some flowers, and we look up where to find the flower in an FAQ, so we can use the search mechanic on the small island in the oasis to retrieve it. Then we head all the way back to 12-bit to see Lady Diana. We show the flower to Lucille, and she gets us in to see Lady Diana. I have to say her name a lot in these notes. Turns out she's Faradun's grandmother. Lucille tells us that Faradun is strong and kind, and she's not just saying this because she's on the clock. She's actually a really good dude. She says that letting us in when we're her grandson's enemy is kind of not okay, but as long as we only ask about Johnny Appleseed and not how we want to overthrow the government, it should be okay. So then when we get in to see Grandma die, Chuck and Avril take the lead talking because our Hicks from Backwater Capo Bronco ain't got none of them fancy words to use. They ask if she's heard of Johnny Appleseed, and she's like, oh yeah, I know Johnny. He's calmed down now with his age, but in his youth, he was a lot like you, Dean Stark, who I recognize from the TV, so I know that you're a human. So why are you trying to hide from me? She says that Johnny
they did a whole report on you.
Lucille's like, they try to play it off with Lucille being like, but his face was only on screen for a second, and I'm like, okay, I guess that's the explanation we're going with for we didn't think about the fact that we were on TV, and we know that Lady Diana watched this specific TV program.
Well, yeah. It's not just, they were on TV, because the way it's specifically specified, like, his whole thing about, I'm trying to tear down the wall between humans and Varuni, and yada, like, he was apparently on TV saying that, which makes it sound like Duo's done a more recent report than that about him.
Yeah.
Like, this dude was on the 6 o'clock news.
She says that Johnny has been working hard to promote coexistence between humans and Varuni, and he would probably be glad to see us. We should go to Locus Solus and talk with him. Locus Solus is, of course, the colony ship that the Varuni arrived on many years ago. Dean asks, well, how do we get there? But before Diana can answer, Faradun comes home. Lady Diana tells us to hide so that Faradun doesn't see us, and he comes in the room to talk to her. He wants her to return to Locus Solus to treat whatever malady she's been stricken with, but she says that she wants to stay on Fulgaea and share in its fate. He says, I understand your feelings, but please think of those of us who must concern ourselves for your health. If I were to lose you too. Grandma Di asks him if he still blames himself for their deaths, and he doesn't answer. Grandma Di says that she'll go back to the Locus Solus since he asked nicely. She asks Faradun to look after Volsung, as he has the potential to bridge the gap between the humans and Varuni. Faradun is about to respond to this when Chuck fucking sneezes. Faradun is like, oh shit, it's those guys from TV. I'm going to arrest you for trespassing, but if you cooperate, I won't kill you. Dean is like,
that's the sign that he's a nice Varuni. He's a rich man who won't have you killed for being on his property.
Dean tells him to eat shit, and since they're close to meeting Johnny Appleseed, they won't cooperate. Faradun is like, wait, Johnny Appleseed? Avril, have your memories returned? Dean tells him to eat shit, and Chuck finds an escape route. Greg throws a flashbang, and we get the fuck out of there.
These characters, holy shit. They're gremlin.
They really are. We sneak past some guards and make our way into the basement, where we run into Persephone.
This sneaking past these guards, it's so... You have to shoot down a chandelier to distract them, and for some reason, I thought of that, but when I ran around and aimed my camera, I just couldn't get it to lock onto the chandelier for some reason. So I tried a lot of other stuff, and when the guards see you, they say, hey, haven't you heard there's an intruder on the loose? Get back to your rooms.
That's amazing. So, yeah, when we get into the basement, we run into Persephone. She asks us if Nightburn really died, and we're like, yeah. But then Dean is like, well, I don't think Nightburn is dead. Persephone's like, really? Why not? And Dean says, no reason. Persephone says that we're children for having baseless hopes, and Rebecca says, Dean's not a child. He's Nightburn's successor. Nightburn gave him his license so that he could tear down the wall between Varuni and human. As a matter of fact, I'll prove it to you by whooping your ass in a one-on-one battle. Rebecca then loses the one-on-one battle. But somehow, and our characters mention this and are confused too, we win her over because after the fight, the guards discover that we're in the basement. She tells us to run as she distracts them, and if we ever hear anything about Nightburn, we need to let her know.
Well, it's very confusing.
we've played Skies of Arcadia. We know that when there's a villain group and there's one lady in it, the lady's going to sort of be a good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just she again another time. One of the characters in this game has gone very quickly from "I will kill all of you. You're all like none of you should exist" to "I'm gonna help you now"
Yeah.
with no discernible like I can't tell how the character went from one to the other.
Well,
Yeah.
she likes Nightburn. Dean likes Nightburn. They both like Nightburn.
Yeah. That's it. So we head off into the mansion's basement, which is a huge trap-filled dungeon, as it is. Dean is like, well, it's weird that Persephone face turned out of nowhere. Let's get the fuck out of here before she changes her mind. Rebecca says that she doesn't think that Persephone will change her mind because she's concerned about Nightburn, and a Varuni caring about a human at all like that makes her not so nasty anymore. That's also why Persephone went easy on Rebecca. Dean asks how dealing 14,000 damage is going easy on her, but Rebecca doesn't have an answer. She says that maybe the Varuni aren't all bad, and several are quite sensible. They are only complicit in serving the ruling class, which indiscriminately punishes those deemed lesser than it, and in fact carry out orders that further that punishment, and don't speak up to stop the quote-unquote bad ones from killing people. All cops are bad. Oh, and by the way, free Palestine. Meanwhile, we get to check in on the professor. He's with the Baskars, researching the rejection feeling that Varuni feel by Filgaea. So apparently, it's not just Avril, it's all the Varuni. Also, apparently, Avril is a Varuni, as if it wasn't already obvious. The professor says that there's a poisonous compound on Filgaea called the VR factor, which is growing in concentration in recent years. Humans are immune to it, but it causes all the Varuni to get sick, and with it growing in concentration, Varuni are getting sicker and sicker.
There's also a poisonous substance called the VR factor in the video game industry, am I right?
Heyo!
VR is actually pretty cool, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just had to make a joke.
I wish it wasn't. I wish it wasn't so expensive, and that Facebook wasn't one of the main places that you could get VR. I feel that when it happened, everybody was like, "Oh, this is going to make it mainstream," but I think all it did is made it fucking dweeby, and it's not going to be cool anymore. Like, I think Half-Life Alyx is going to be the only cool VR game because everything about it just looks stupid and like Mark Zuckerberg's fucking avatar. Anyways, Varuni can neutralize the effects of the VR factor by using mediums, which link one to Filgaea, and as such, strengthens their resilience to the poison. However, Varuni can't use blank mediums, only original mediums, and they haven't found a way to make original mediums yet. They've made some progress, but they think that they'll have the technological level needed to make original mediums in about 100 years, and the Varuni only have a few years left. However, they think they know who created the original mediums. The game cuts to an outline of obviously Avril, and they say that there are documents that reference Lilithea, the Ice Queen, as the creator of the mediums 12,000 years ago. The professor is like, maybe I should have captured her when I had the chance instead of investigating that mirror, as if things weren't complicated enough. I sure do love scenes that only ask more questions and don't really give us any answers. It makes it real easy to decide what's important when I'm writing notes. Back in 12-bit, because
remember .hack GU?
Yep. Back in 12-bit, because we ran straight back to the place we ran away from, I guess. We see Lucille talking with Faradun, where he says that Lucille didn't need to sneak us in. All she had to do was say that we were friends of hers, and they would have let us in, which is awfully different than the "I guess I won't have to kill you" that he said moments ago. Chuck says that things seem to have smoothed over with Lucille and Faradun, so he just wants to let it be and not mess anything up for her. So we leave. The game kind of doesn't tell us what to do at this point, but we can go anywhere on the trains now, so we might as well go to Mirapulse because we looked up where to go in a guide. When we get there, the sheriff and a golem hunter are arguing together. The golem hunter says that he saw a man with bloodshot eyes and a golem arm east of here in Harmonde. Greg is like, okay, bye, gang. I'm off to go kill somebody. And Dean is like, no, let us come with you. I want to watch you kill someone. And Greg is like, okay. We head east to the decrepit path to make our way to Harmonde. Inside the dungeon, Avril asks the group, if the Varuni rule over humans, why do they still give them arms? Chuck says that arms reflect the strength of their users, and the Varuni are sure that humans are weaklings, so they don't think that their arms will ever get that strong. So they give the arms to humans to fight off monsters so that their labor force doesn't die off, but they're not scared of a revolution. Dean says that in their village they gave an arm to every 12-year-old, so he's never really thought about why. But could you imagine a 12-year-old Dean Stark with a gun? Thankfully.
He says that they ran out when he and Rebecca both turned 12 at the same time, which I guess they share a birthday. But
either that or it's like a school year thing. Like,
yeah,
12th year on the solstice, you'll get a gun or whatever.
Yeah. On your 12th year on the solstice, you'll get a gun.
Or they count ages like on Roshar with no birthdays.
Yes. The Korean birthday is when you get your arm.
But yeah, so Dean they only had one arm left, and Dean let Rebecca have it because he's nice, and also he thought all he needed was his shovel.
What if they actually did have more than one, and they were just like, we can't give that kid a gun. That's not gonna work out. And they're like, we only have one, and they knew little self-sacrificial kid he was would be like, oh, Rebecca can have it.
Next year, there's like 4 kids that all turn 12, and all of them get a gun, and Dean is too stupid to put 2 and 2 together. So yeah, Dean is like, all I've ever needed was my shovel, but I sure was glad when Avril gave me the twin Fenrir. Carol is like, oh, that reminds me of a legend that the Baskars told me about how when the world is in danger, a man bearing 2 guns will lead the world to peace and justice, with the 2 guns representing fairness and balance. Avril is like, I think I've heard that before, but I can't remember specifically. Greg says, you're better off without memories. I'd be a lot happier if I could forget what happened that day. Dean is like, you sure are focused on that revenge of yours. And Greg is like, the whole reason I'm alive is to get revenge on that fucker. Avril is like, I'm not sure if it's my amnesia or what, but I don't understand. Why do you want revenge? What will it accomplish? Dean chimes in that, yeah, even if you get your revenge, it won't bring anyone back to life. So what are you going to do when you get your revenge? Greg says, none of that makes any difference. You can't get caught up thinking about what you're going to do afterwards and such, or you'll never get your revenge. You have to get so focused on revenge that you can't think of anything else. But now that you ask, maybe I'll just throw my life in along with his. Dean is like, are you stupid? You're on this quest because you know how hard it is to lose a loved one. So why would you make us go through that same heartbreak after losing you? Greg pauses and then is like, well, to be honest, I've never thought about it. Let me think on it a bit. Dean says, don't say you'll ever die again. And Greg says, I'll think about it.
I just want to... I do too. That was actually very good, and I appreciated it. I just want to make a dumb joke of, see, when I heard the legend of the person who's going to bring love and peace to the desert planet, I thought it required 3 guns, not 2.
Yes. The inspiration for the Wild Arms series is worn proudly. It is not hidden at all.
Yes. No, I hate to say this. Dean has grown on me. He's still no Vash the Stampede.
Mm-mm.
There is only one Vash the Stampede.
Speaking of which,
fucking God.
Speaking of which, have you seen how hot new Vash the Stampede is?
Oh, he's so hot.
It's like stupid hot.
I really wish Millie they actually had Millie in the new show, and I would have watched it then. But she's not. They replaced her with Robert De Niro, or whatever his name. I think his name is literally Robert De Niro.
That's
and I'm like, no, I'm good.
There is a character named Roberto De Niro.
Okay, it's Roberto De Niro.
That's amazing.
I'm just saying, yes. Millie Thompson is the character we all need in this landscape of so many characters who look exactly the same. Give me the woman with 6'4", wide shoulders, no chest. She's incredible. I love her.
I know nothing about Trigun, but I did also see that there's a character named Millions Knives, which is a
There is
good
a
name for
character
a
named
character.
Millions.
That's
Millions
fantastic.
Knives is the best name.
Anyway,
Anyways, so we make it out of the dungeon and make it over to Harmonde, where we meet Greg's father, Joseph. He says that a golem is destroying the town, and it's being piloted by a man with a golem arm, and he's sorry that he doubted Greg after all these years. We run off into the town, fight some Varuni, and we find Kartikeya in the city center. Kartikeya is like, "Who are you?" Greg says, "My name is Greg Russellberg. You killed my wife and son. Prepare to die." Kartikeya is like, "I've never heard of you. I don't remember all the names of the people I kill. Sorry." So Greg says, a little bit louder, with more energy, "My name is Greg Russellberg. You killed my wife and son. Prepare to die." Uh, we get a flashback to Greg fighting with Kartikeya, who was slaughtering humans to test his golem arm's functionality, and Greg was trying to fight him to no avail. Kartikeya is like, "Come on, I can't test this if you don't put up a fight." "Oh well, I could just kill your wife for fun." And he points his shotgun over at Mary, Greg's wife. But then Ted, Greg's son, stands in front of his mom with his arms spread wide, and he says, "I'm protecting my mom. I promised my dad. He said to use your strength to protect people and never to harm them." Kartikeya is like, "Okay," and he blows Ted's brains out with a shotgun. Kartikeya is like, "Parents these days, they can't teach their kids anything, not even how to be afraid. Now, like I said, stand up and fight, or there's no need to let you live." And he aims a shotgun at Greg, but then Mary jumps in the way to save him. Kartikeya is like, "Now that's funny." Greg vows to kill Kartikeya, and Kartikeya is like, "Oh, really? After you couldn't stop me from murdering your family in front of you? Here, you'll need this." Tosses the shotgun to Greg and says, "Shoot me." Greg obliges, and Kartikeya's golem arm Wonder Woman's all the bullets that are coming at him. So Greg runs up and puts the gun right in Kartikeya's face and pulls the trigger, and Kartikeya catches the bullet in his teeth.
also, not how shotguns work.
Not at all.
But yeah, I guess it's not a shotgun, it's an arm. So
Yes.
it just shoots really big bullets.
Yes. It has buckshot. No, not buckshot. What's
I don't know.
the other one?
Shells?
I should know. I'm from deep Texas, but yeah,
Deep Texas
Yes.
sounds like a place where you find like dire wolf.
I mean, dire
Yeah.
coyotes.
Yeah, dire coyotes.
Mine were dire gators.
Deep Texas is the subterranean fungal environment under Texas.
Yes.
Hold on, I need to save this idea. I need to save this idea for an urban fantasy series
Called Deep Texas. um uh so Greg slumps to the ground, and Kartikeya is like, "This was so much fun. You go off, go get stronger, and then we can have some fun again. Maybe you'll even kill me, and now that would be even more fun." As he leaves, Joseph runs in, and we see the scene that we already saw before, where he blames Greg for the death of Mary and Ted.
It would be annoying if we had to watch that scene a third time very shortly after this.
Yeah, that would be weird.
That would be so strange.
Back in the present, Greg is like, "I'm going to kill you in a one-on-one battle," and Greg does not kill him in a one-on-one battle. Kartikeya laughs.
I sure am getting tired of fighting one of the 4 sentinels, and we have to go into the battle and everything. Like, I know it's not going to happen.
Especially because they always start you too far away, so you have to do 2 turns of battle to die. It's so annoying.
Yeah.
It's like, if it was one turn where you start up and then you go to attack and it doesn't do any damage and they do their 12,000 damage and it was over, that'd be fine. But no, you have to watch animations for like 30 seconds before you can properly die.
Also, it just feels like they should. I think this would have been an effective move once or twice, and they've done it. I think this is the 4th or 5th time now.
Yeah.
I think at this point we've done the 4 sentinels. So we've done all 3 of Volsung's lackeys, and we had to lose fight against Nightburn. But we did Persephone twice, didn't we? Did we do Persephone twice?
I think we've only done Persephone once, but we've done also the Professor.
But also the Professor, yeah. So yeah. I'm tired of
that one was with the whole party, though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so after the battle, Kartikea is laughing at Greg, who's been knocked to the ground, saying that he's too weak to even get revenge, and so he aims his gun at Greg. But then Dean stands in front of Greg, arms held wide, to protect him. Kartikea is like, "Aw, how cute!" Then punches Dean and drops him like a sack of potatoes, and laughs. Greg says that he's going to have the last laugh because as long as you don't give up, you can do anything. Kartikea is like, "I'll be sure to write that on your gravestone." Ta-ta, and leaves. As he leaves, Joseph runs in, and we see the scene that we saw before where he blames Greg for the death of Mary and Ted.
In case you'd forgotten.
So Joseph apologizes to Greg for not believing in him, and Greg counter-apologizes for not explaining himself well enough. Joseph says that Greg should free himself from this pain and give up on revenge. He's still young, so he can start over. And Greg's like, "After all of this, how can you not hate him?" Joseph says, "Of course I hate him, but this won't bring them back. I know I can't tell you to just get over your loss, but remember that there are other paths forward." Joseph says that living in Junon hurts too bad, so he's going to move to Harmonde for a fresh start. And Greg says, "I'll be back again, I promise." And with that, the game doesn't tell us where to go, so we'll wander the wastelands until we look it up on next time. So let's listen to some more music and then talk about our memorable moments.
So a while back, y'all were talking about how Dean sort of sucks in battle and everything. I don't know about y'all, but by this point, my Dean fucking kicks ass.
Absolutely. I was going to bring that up.
He gets... I forget how, like, what is a medium, what is an accessory, or a badge, or whatever they're called, a medal. But my Dean, he gets the double counter, so or not double counter, double critical, so his criticals do insane damage. I have a medal or badge or whatever that allows him to always get a critical on his first attack in battle. And also there's the move Sonic Vision, which lets him get a critical whenever, as long as you have enough force points or whatever. And it's amazing, and he is doing like 70% of the damage now. Everyone else is just building up force points for him to do his double criticals with Sonic Vision.
Yeah, last week was when Dean started getting really good for me, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing!" And then I got to the fight with the fucking kobold in Mount Chug Chug, who's immune to physical damage, and I was like, "Well, Dean, it's been nice, but you're fucking useless now. Your magic attack is like negative every time. I'm like, all right, well, he'll use an item to cast some magic because these people are weak to it or whatever. It does like 6 damage. He's really bad at magic, but his physical is insanely strong. I've actually moved Rebecca to be my backup mage, so she most of the time will just attack physically, but she has the mage thing equipped so that she can have access, because she's kind of split between attack and magic. Yeah.
My memorable moment for this week is the moment when I realized, I've talked before about the little nitpicks here and there of Greg's design. Don't like his hat. I think his hat's terrible. I also think that weird glove on one hand, it looks so strange, and I don't know why he has a glove like that. But I hit on something deeper than either of those problems, and even honestly, something that the hat almost helps because it distracts me from this. I feel like he looks too young. Like, for the kind of character he is and the story he has, every time I see under his hat and I see his face, I'm expecting to have like longer sideburns or some scruff on his chin or something like that, because he feels like he should be the like that. Like those are the character design details that would fit so naturally, and I just assume they're there. And then the hat moves, and I'm like, oh no, that guy's as like has a face as smooth as a baby's bottom. What's going on?
That's weird. I didn't
I
notice. I swear he had a beard, but I just pulled up his art page and he definitely does not.
He
I
doesn't.
I just looked up Greg on Wild Arms wiki to see how old he is. He's 34. But more
It's
importantly, his
34.
class, which I think makes sense, but more importantly, his class is Pathetic Revenger.
God.
That's
Oh,
amazing.
that's so rude, but I have no complaints.
Dean's class is Leading Shooter. That's nice. Why does Greg get Pathetic Revenger?
Oh, maybe they mean pathetic, like having pathos because he has a big emotional backstory, but that's not how you use the word pathetic. Yeah, so speaking of character designs, did you guys get turned into cats?
Yes.
They're
Love it.
so
No.
they're so good.
I
So
want to see.
I'm getting it for you. Don't worry, I got your back. So the uh recurring status effect, god damn it. Um it's called misery in English. It was called helpless in Japanese, so that makes this make a lot more sense. But because it was always translated as misery, they had to stick to it. Um so
That
the misery status effect turns you into a cat, and everybody's cats are wonderful and fantastic, and I love them with all my heart.
And
is
they
so
have
good.
special voice clips where they're like higher pitched, and I think Dean says "nya," if I
Yeah,
recall correctly.
it's so good.
It's wonderful.
Also, speaking of character designs, we can go everywhere now, so we can unlock the rest of the cameos. So Jack from Wild Arms 1 is in Capo Bronco, as is Kresnik from Wild Arms 4. Uh, in 12-bit, we can find Lilka from Wild Arms 2, the aforementioned mage that starts off in a JRPG uh, mindscape. In Wild Arms 2, there's a recurring joke that she tries to use her teleport orb and she messes up and ends up somewhere random. And this character talks about how she doesn't know how she got here. She used a teleport orb, and it's really cute. Ashley Winchester is also in 12-bit. He's the owner of the bakery, which is a throwback to his life in Wild Arms 2. Emma from Wild Arms 1 is also there. She's a rising screenwriter, and she talks about how she's really, really bad with machines, but in her game, she was the tech whiz inventor trope, which is weird. In Mirror Pulse, you can run to Arnaud, Raquel, and Yuli from Wild Arms 4. They all have a little side quest together. When you get over to Harmonde, you can find Clive from Wild Arms 3, who's wearing a Mr. Rogers sweater, and it's so wholesome, and I love him. I mean, he's complaining that his family was slaughtered by Kartikeya, so maybe it's not all the way wholesome, but he's very, very cute. You can also run into Anastasia from Wild Arms 2, and then in a different sort of cameo, the Golem Barbados from Wild Arms 1 is in the desert, and he's half buried in the sand. In Wild Arms 1, when you have to fight Barbados, you have to wander around in the sand to proc his battle, so it's a reference to that, which is pretty cute. And then finally, there's a side quest in Mythismere about Zed from Wild Arms 1. And with that, we've seen all of the previous party members. So we've seen every cameo in the game. I'm sure there will be references because there's been references constantly. But those are all of the cameos, and I really liked seeing everybody. It's like the gang's all here. Even
Cool.
Bowtie Boy.
Even Bowtie Boy.
And then my last one is one of the save birds this week. His thing says, "What is greed? A miserable little pile of selfishness. But enough talk. Would you like to save?" And
That's stupid.
it's so stupid. I love it.
This isn't even a Konami game.
It's not. But yeah, those are all the ones that I have prepped. Anything else anyone wants to say before we close it up?
I think we're good.
Cool. So that'll do it for the week. If you like what you heard, you can head on over to www.rpgbook.club, where any and all donations will help us cover the cost of running the show, making it better and better. If you set up a recurring monthly donation, you also get some additional benefits. If you donate $1 or more a month, you get access to the bonus feed, where this week we are continuing to play Tales of Destiny Director's Cut. Side note, this is the same episode we were going to talk about last time because we didn't record one yet, but the one this week will be the one that I talked about last week. You'll also get access to our polls to help us decide what we play next in the main feed. Judging by the amount of updates left, we're probably like 2 or 3 weeks away from that. So get your donations in so you can vote on whatever we're doing next. If you donate $5 or more a month, we'll also shout your name at the end of every episode, like this. Shoutouts to Cerebral Wind, It's Clear Time, Frosthair, Dragonslayer 19, Floris, Kaeldron, Freddy Rodriguez, Aaron524, and JFro Prime. And finally, if you love us so much that you want to donate $20 or more a month, you can also get me to say a sentence of your choosing to either plug something or just to make me say something silly. So shouts to El Tantavi, who wants you to check out critical-distance.com, an aggregator for games criticism and journalism. Shoutouts to Vimk, who says, Legend of Legaia is the first installment in the Legaia series, produced by Contrail Inc. and developed by Procyon Limited in 1998. Legend of Legaia is a fully 3D RPG, being almost entirely rendered in polygons, with the exception of some two-dimensional backdrops. It features turn-based RPG gameplay with a twist based on fighting games, including Japanese character voices during battle, and a unique storyline. And then shoutouts to Carr, who's a dentist, so he isn't plugging a website, but rather your own mouth, and he says to brush your teeth twice a day, most importantly, the time right before you go to bed. For RPG Book Club, I have been Sam Allman.
I'm Bernard.
And I'm Trish.
Toodaloo, folks.
Goodbye.